Can you see me?
Here we go. There we go.
There we go. Good morning. I'm very glad to be here representing the town of Ajax as we talk about affordability. Mayor Collier sends his regrets that he was unable to be with us today. I'd like to begin this occasion by acknowledging that the land which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas. More specifically, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nations, signatory of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williamson Treaty of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous people. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support the truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action and acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Sorry, I'm being overtaken by my hair. Let us continue with these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. Ajax Council and town staff recognize that our residents like people across Canada are feeling the impact of high prices, especially when it comes to housing. That is why Ajax Council is so committed to getting homes built and increasing density. We will continue to work with on the Housing Accelerator Fund application federally, including introducing policy changes like 4 units as a right of zoning permission. We need partnership and participation from all levels of government to meet our shared goals of creating more housing and more affordable housing options. On behalf of the town of Ajax, I look forward to the future collaboration with our local MP. I would like to say, with that, I'm going to introduce Ajax MP, the Honourable Mark Holland. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Marilyn. It's fantastic to be here today. Prime Minister, it is phenomenal to have you back in Ajax. We're so happy to have you here. I want to acknowledge my good friend and colleague, Ryan Turnbull, Member of Parliament for Whitby and the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry. Ryan, love working with you here in Durham. Just a phenomenal individual. I also want to acknowledge the presence of Peter Grader, the Chief Financial Officer for Medallion Corporation. Rad Vakuchevich with Medallion, Abraham Bleeman, and I'm going to talk about Abraham in just one second, but I really want to say a huge thank you to Marilyn, who is such a champion for housing and really leaning into what needs to get done here to remove red tape and remove obstacles. I'm sorry Sean can't be with us because your council has really been leaders across the country, and it's such a privilege to represent a community that's doing so much in this area. And Abraham, we had a chance to meet with Abraham and his family earlier, who just welcomed a new grandchild, and to hear the story of some 70 years ago when Abraham came here and began the incredible story of building homes for Canadians and really leaning in. And we know that every Canadian deserves a safe and affordable place to call home. And that's why our government has been taking action to increase the supply of rental housing projects, including here in Ajax. And it's phenomenal to be back here. You know, I was talking with the Prime Minister in 2019 to be here with a $60 million loan from the federal government for the first phase here in Pat Bailey Square to create a center for Ajax and really have a vibrant downtown, and then to be back in 2021 again when we announced $168.5 million to construct 551 affordable units in 2 multi-residential buildings as part of Pat Bailey Phase 2. All of this is part, and I know Ryan, Jennifer, and I are so deeply proud of the work that's being done by our government. $250 million invested since 2017, and so much more to be done. We have a Prime Minister who is taking incredible leadership in the space of housing, who I'm so proud to have with us here today to talk about the essential and critical investments in the fall economic statement, and to talk generally about what our government is doing in the space of housing. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau.
Thank you very much, Mark. Bonjour tout le monde. It's great to be here with both Ryan and Mark, two amazing, strong MPs, members of our team, who are strong voices for the region and continue to deliver for people around here. Deputy Mayor Crawford, Marilyn, thank you so much for your words, your welcome, and mostly for all your hard work as well. Your council has been extraordinary, as Mark has said, on moving forward on affordability measures, on unlocking the potential of building new homes here in Ajax, and it's really exciting. But you know, we're happy to work with you. Mark is incredibly proud of representing this region. As he sits around the cabinet table as our health minister, he is keeping at the forefront the real needs of people, not just in this community, but around the country. Now, as Mark was saying, just behind me on my right, this apartment building at Pat Bailey Square was built with the help of federal loans. And Mark, as you said, you were at that announcement back in 2019. And now, more than 300 people and families have new homes in this apartment. And we continue to build and build even faster. As you can see, there's another project or two being built on my left, where the crane is. And Mark, you were there to announce that one as well 2 years ago. These are all real results for Canadians. And the great examples that show that the best way to solve housing challenges is to work together. Together with the private sector, like we did here in Ajax with Abraham Bleeman, who's joining us today, President of Medallion Development. I was incredibly touched by his story. Coming here and having people not willing to rent to him because he was starting a family. And he made a commitment that he was going to make sure he was building units for housing in the coming years. And he started in the 50s and is still building them today, all these years later. Thank you, not just for your initiative and for your leadership, but thank you for being the embodiment of the Canadian dream in so many ways, and to all your families. These are real results. But by working in partnership with provincial and municipal governments, Ajax continues to be proactive in pushing new initiatives for housing. Recently, the city approved more measures, including permitting 4 residential units as of right on a single lot. So thank you again, Marilyn, for your leadership, and I look forward to continuing our work together with you and Mayor Collier to build the homes people need. Because whether it's here in Ajax, across the GTA, or anywhere else in the country, the promise of Canada needs to be the same. The promise that every generation can reach even higher than the generation before. Well, as a government, we are focused on securing that promise, and housing is at the center of that work. We're facing a shortage of housing right now, and this is a big reason why prices are just way too high. So we need to build more homes faster. That's exactly what we're doing, for example, with the Housing Accelerator Fund. We're working with provinces and municipalities to remove barriers, to allow more density, to fund affordable housing projects and get permits rolling. The announcements we've made so far through this fund are going to fast-track tens of thousands of homes across Canada over the next few years alone, and tens of thousands more in the years ahead. We need more homes Canadians can buy, and we need more homes Canadians can rent. I just met people earlier who live in the apartment building I mentioned before, with affordable units in it. I met Tim, who's an engineering designer who is proud to say he works just down the road, because being able to live and work in growing communities makes a huge difference. And Yassine, I was proud to say that he not only lives in this building, but works in an auto assembly nearby, and was chuckling that it is his wife who has to commute in to Markham every day, but he gets to do work from here. And this is what we need to build, not just have communities like Ajax depend on commuting into Toronto or into large cities, but actually be able to grow and flourish and create strong communities and a strong future right here. And that's what these investments with the Housing Accelerator are all about. These are the kinds of results that we're focused on in creating opportunity for Canadians to grow, live, work and play in great communities right across the country like Ajax. À travers le pays, On a besoin de plus de logements, y compris plus d'appartements locatifs. C'est pour ça qu'il y a 2 semaines, on a annoncé de l'aide pour construire plus de 12 000 logements à travers le pays avec notre programme de prêt pour la construction d'appartements. Et on a ajouté des investissements dans ce programme, dans l'énoncé économique de l'automne, pour en construire encore plus. But of course, when it comes to housing, there is no one-size-fits-all solution. For renters, on top of expanding access to low-cost federal financing, we're removing the GST from new rental construction projects. For homeowners, we're creating the Canadian Mortgage Charter to help ensure payments are reasonable for borrowers, because we know a lot of people are looking at where interest rates are and the upcoming renegotiation of their mortgage, and they're worried about it. Well, we're putting forward a mortgage charter that guarantees some rights and protections for them that are going to give them reassurance that their lives will continue to be affordable as they build equity in their homes. And for people experiencing homelessness, we're building units through the Rapid Housing Initiative that has had a huge impact right across the country. We've been helping building housing across Canada since day one, after the previous federal government spent 10 years not doing housing. And now we're accelerating this work even more. Now, Pierre Poilievre thinks he can build more housing with empty slogans. He thinks that bullying municipalities and cutting funding for affordable housing will somehow get more shovels in the ground. Well, I think we can all agree that's not responsible leadership. Our government has a real plan, a plan that produces real results, like right here in Ajax. Le Canada en a réglé des crises du logement par le passé, et on est capable de le faire encore. Quand il y a des défis devant nous, on sait quoi faire. On se retrousse les manches et on travaille ensemble pour bâtir un avenir meilleur. C'est ce qu'on fait avec Mark et Ryan et toute notre équipe. On va rendre le logement plus abordable pour les familles, pour les jeunes. On s'assure que la promesse du Canada tienne, la promesse d'améliorer la qualité de vie à chaque génération. We're going to keep our hard work going, because Canada is the best country in the world, and we're going to keep making it even better. Thank you, everyone, for being here today.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We will now begin the question period. 1 question, 1 follow-up. First question goes to Simon Dingley from CBC.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Welcome back to the GTA. Will the federal government enforce collecting and remitting carbon tax revenues now that Saskatchewan's Premier Moe says he'll stop collecting on natural gas and electricity January 1st?
Canada is a country of the rule of law, and we expect all Canadians to follow the law. That applies to provinces as much as it applies to individual citizens.
La même réponse en français pour Radio-Canada aussi, s'il vous plaît.
Le Canada est un pays de loi, un pays où la règle de droit règne. On s'attend à ce que tous les citoyens et toutes les institutions, y compris les gouvernements provinciaux, obéissent à la loi.
Second question, sir. Ontario's First Nations say your government's refusing to negotiate with them over the carbon tax. The Chiefs and now say they want a judicial review. Will you exempt First Nations from the price on carbon or increase rebates for First Nations peoples?
In my conversations over the past many years with Indigenous peoples, concerns about a changing environment, concerns about the impacts of climate change has come up again and again. Indeed, Indigenous peoples are some of the leaders in shifting the mindsets towards more long-term sustainable approaches. At the same time, we're walking the road of reconciliation because we know how important it is to support Indigenous peoples as they build the strong, thriving communities and identity that they need. We have worked with Indigenous communities on affordability, on supports, and on the fight against climate change from the very beginning, and we will continue to.
En français, sur les jeunes indigenous, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, les peuples autochtones ont toujours été là pour protéger l'environnement, pour lutter contre les changements climatiques, et on a été là pour travailler avec eux et investir dans leur avenir économique, dans leur avenir de communauté forte. On va toujours être là pour travailler avec eux, pour protéger la planète et appuyer un meilleur avenir pour tous.
Merci. Next question.
Stats Canada reports GDP shrank in the third quarter, putting Canada at the brink of a recession. What is your government doing to prepare for a leaner economic outlook next year?
Well, we know that Canadians are facing challenging times and have for a long stretch now. That's why we've been stepping up with direct supports for Canadians. More investments in housing to create more supply in affordable housing and bring costs of rents and housing down across the country. We're working with grocery stores to increase competition to make sure that food prices stabilize. We're working with specific groups, whether it's a grocery rebate that has hit 11 million Canadians that helped at a difficult time, to moving forward on initiatives like free dental care for families that can't afford to send their kids to the dentist. Dental care for seniors is about to kick in the coming months. And quite frankly, it boggles the mind that Conservatives continue to stand against dental care for vulnerable Canadians and Canadians who need it. We're going to continue to step up with investments in housing, in affordability, in supporting stronger communities while we fight against increasing impacts of extreme weather events due to climate change. And we're going to do it in a fiscally responsible way, because we have been so fiscally responsible over the past years. We have room to respond if there is no more to do. We have the lowest deficit in the G7, the best debt to GDP ratio in the G7. The international bond rating agencies have confirmed Canada's AAA rating. We're the third largest economy in the world with a AAA rating after the US and Germany. So we will continue to be there with a responsible plan to invest in Canadians, while the Conservatives continue to propose cuts in services and programs as a way of creating growth, which makes absolutely no sense. We're going to keep investing in housing, in supporting families, in building a better future while we fight climate change.
We're expecting the long-promised emissions cap for the oil and gas sector, with provinces openly defying part of your current climate plan. How confident are you that oil-producing provinces will buy into these new restrictions?
It doesn't make any sense to anyone that oil and gas the sector should have an unlimited ability to pollute. We are trying to lower emissions across the country to fight climate change, but also innovate with the solutions we need. And it doesn't make any sense that any sector have an unlimited right to pollute. What we are doing is putting a cap on pollution, not production. What we are doing is making sure that we continue to have the energy we need to grow our economy in the short term, while we still rely on fossil fuels, but we'll be working to make them cleaner and cleaner and lower emissions, and in the longer term as we develop the solutions that not just Canada but the world needs in a net zero economy.
Thank you. Last question.
Good afternoon, Marilyn Hamidou, the Canadian Press. A group of CSIS officers have told the Canadian Press about harassment at the agency, including officers who say they were raped and sexually assaulted during missions by a senior colleague in BC. Has CSIS lived up to its director's previous commitments to fight harassment in the workplace?
These reports are absolutely devastating. They are of deep, deep concern. These allegations are absolutely unacceptable. We need to make sure that everyone in every workplace, no matter how delicate or sensitive or secret the work they're doing, is protected, particularly for people who serve their country. These are things that we have taken incredibly seriously as a government from the very beginning, and I can assure you that the Minister and our entire government is following up very directly on these issues. Je peux vous dire que ces rapports sont extrêmement préoccupants. Ce serait absolument inacceptable si ça s'avère d'être vrai, et on va faire des suivis directement sur ces allégations extrêmement sérieuses. personne ne devrait être soumis à de l'harcèlement ou pire dans leur lieu de travail, encore moins des gens qui font un travail, un service pour le pays qui est extrêmement important, extrêmement délicat. Je sais que le ministre et tout notre gouvernement est en train de se pencher sur cette question-là, mais c'est extraordinairement sérieux.
Thank you, Prime Minister. That concludes today's press conference.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde.